Hi, Sarah speaking here. Welcome to Gridbusters. So today what I want to do is correct the error I made in the last video. So you may remember in the last video I was hooking up the charge controllers here to this bus bar, which is the Victron Power In. And as a lot of you pointed out, I connected my cables to the wrong side of the shunt. Now everything would still work, but what would actually happen is if I had it hooked up that way, the monitoring wouldn't work. I wouldn't get any useful information out of the shunt. So what I need to do is move the cables to the right-hand side of the shunt, and I've already pulled some of the cables through here. And I wanted to include this because, you know, this is, yeah, I'm not an expert. I make mistakes, and this is being so helpful having all your comments below the videos, by the way. I really do appreciate this. I'm learning as I go doing this, and this is one of the things I've always found in life has always been the best thing to do. Rather than spending all of your time just learning and learning and learning and learning, sometimes you need to learn kind of like as you're doing stuff, learning along the way. This is the best way you can learn things. So make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. Now, obviously, I'm keeping safe, so I'm really making sure I'm doing here everything as safe as possible, reading manuals, making sure I'm putting the correct fusing in and everything else. But, you know, I've made a mistake here, and, you know, these things happen. I think a lot of people, when they're doing YouTube channels, they don't show the mistakes, and I wanted to show those mistakes. So thank you very much for all of your comments that you put in the last video. And also the wiring diagram. I did explain when I was doing the wiring diagram video that, you know, the cables in that wiring diagram weren't quite right. So I will be updating the wiring diagram. So today what I want to do is I want to install redo the cabling, which shouldn't take too long. So we'll just whiz through that, and then we're going to be hooking up the earth cables to the equipment here to the breaker panel. Now the cool thing is I have all the cabling to finish the solar system off, and to be honest, it's not a huge amount of work. Jude, the builder, is here all this week, so hopefully this week we can get all that cabling finished. It's one of these things where the cabling that's left is a really small, like a tiny bit of cable that needs to be put in, but it's in a really awkward place right at the top of the roof. So, and we also have to put it in trunking, and so things like that might take a little bit of time to, you know, physically put the cable in the trunking and do everything else. But the actual hookup will be pretty quick. So I'm hoping we can kind of plow through that really quickly. And then we can start switching everything on. Obviously I need to configure all of the software in these products here. Now this is the thing I'm kind of dreading a little bit. Hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. I've configured the software in the BMSs for the battery, but I haven't yet configured the software on the Victron equipment, any of the Victron equipment here. So I've been hooking up the network cables here. So I've got Ethernet cables, kind of like daisy chaining through all of the equipment and then terminating in the Cerebro GX computer there. And then we should be able to access that via a computer or via the mobile phone app. And then we can start configuring everything. And then the final thing, which maybe we'll do next week, is then get the AC side of the inverter hooked up to the breaker panel. So we've got 3 separate lines coming in and out of the inverter. So we've got 2 outputs and 1 input, which we need to hook up to the breaker panel. But obviously I want to make sure that we've got all the software working and everything's all working before I hook it up to the breaker panel, because if it doesn't work properly, we won't have power in the house. Because we're looping the 240 volt mains input through the inverter and then back through to the breaker panel. So I want to make sure that that's all working before I kind of like hook it up to the mains and make sure that we don't have a power cut in the house for too long whilst I'm hooking everything up. So I want to doubly make sure everything is okay. Now, if you have any questions, please do comment below the videos. Really do appreciate your videos. So let's get on with the wiring. So we're going to be moving everything over here. We're going to keep the battery connections here on the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side of the shunt, we're going to have the inverter hooked up and the 2 charge controllers. We do have space here for another power-in unit, which I can use for when we connect up the 3rd charge controller, which we'll do in a few months' time once we've got the whole system operational. Now, the thing about this side of the power-in, it hasn't been modified. So it can't accept fuses. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is disconnect everything, and then we can modify this to be a Victron a proper power in unit that accepts fuses. It's very, very simple modification. I'll show you that now. Now you may have noticed that this inverter is hooked up without any fusing, and that was because I didn't have the fuses in stock. I actually have them now. Now Victron recommend for this inverter, because it's a 15 kilowatt inverter, that use a 600 amp fuse, and they don't actually even sell a 600 amp fuse. So what I've decided to do, because it's 600 amps split between 4 cables, so we've got 2 separate negatives and 2 separate positives here. So that's kind of like 300 amps per cable. So I've got 2 300 amp fuses. So I'm going to put a 300 amp fuse on each one of these. And that's what they recommend for this. For the charge controllers, they recommend a 200 amp fuse. I couldn't find any 200 amp fuses, so, sorry, they recommend 150 amp fuses. I couldn't find any 150 amp Victron fuses. They don't even sell them. Well, the solar supply didn't have them. So I'm going to be using 200 amp fuses, which I'm pretty sure are going to be fine, because I'm using very thick gauge. I'm using 70mm cable here. So 70mm cable, 200 amp fuse, that's going to be absolutely fine for that thickness of cable. So the first thing we're going to do is pull these cables off here, and then we're going to start modifying this power in unit so we can put fuses in. Okay, let's remove these. So the way this works is, you can see there are actually indents in here for the bolts. So we put a bolt in here. It's very simple, really. That goes in there. Obviously we'll have 4 coming through. And then we can just connect a bolt that side, and then we can then put the fuse straight across. So really simple. So in effect what we'll do is we get a positive cable, because this is going to be a positive bus bar, and then the fuse will go from here to the top. This is the negative rail, and that's how we can convert this to accept fuses. Very simple, really. And then obviously underneath we have the negative bar here, and you can see the negative bar is done in exactly the same way. So yeah, so we're just going to populate those with bolts. Get the bolts through. There we go. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is put the inverter on this side, and then I will put the one charge controller here, another charge controller here, and then when we put the next charge controller in, it can go on the next power in module, which will go here, and that way we keep all of the charge controllers together. I don't think we're going to get another inverter. I think 15 kilowatts is fine. If we ever did, then obviously we can move everything along, but for now I think it's better, rather than putting the if we put the inverter here where it used to be, then we're going to have 2 charge controllers to the left and then a charge controller to the right, which, I don't know, I don't know, it probably won't make a difference. Let me know what you think, but I just think it's a good idea to keep everything together. So yeah, so we're going to keep the charge control, we're going to put the inverter next to the shunt, and then we're going to put the charge controllers here. So I have charge controller 1, 2, and then 3 will go here. So yeah, so the first thing we need to do is get our negatives connected up here and here, and then the positives will go here with the fuse to the top here. So let's get those connected up. So 14 Newton meters, 11, 12, 13, 14, there we go. There we go. And then we're going to go that one here. Right. Yep, that's good. Let's take off the top bolts here. So we're going to be connecting the 300 amp fuses to here, because Victron says we need to use 600 amp of fusing. The fusing is really to protect the cable, so from melting. And I've used the exact cable they recommended, which was the 95mm cable. So there we go. So we've got our 300 amp fusing here. Let's get that first one in. So we've got 300 amp there. Bit of a tight fit to get the washer and everything else on. There we go. And then we've got a second 300 amp. So I can actually, I'm not sure which way round you're meant to put them. I'm going to put it this way because you can actually see if the fuse is blown that way. It's got like a little window where you can look into where the thin piece of wire is inside the fuse. You can actually see if it's blown or not, which is pretty cool. Right, so I've made some slightly longer cables up to go from here all the way over to here. So let's get those in now. I'm just going to do it the same way as I did before. So I think first one is I'll fish it through here. Here we go. These are difficult to, blimey. So I've put these network cables in. I'm thinking maybe I should take them out and put them back in when I'm done. I need a bit more space to work with here. So I'm going to pull those out. There we go. Still got the earth cable there connected. Hopefully it will give me a little bit more wiggle room to... There we go. Right, done. So I just need to tighten those up now. So I just need to fish these cables down. Now you may notice, I'm not sure if it comes through on the camera, this is actually a thicker cable than the other charge controller. So this charge controller has a 70mm cable on it, and this cable is actually 95mm because that's all I had in stock. It's the same cable as I used for the charge control, sorry, for the inverter. And this cable's really expensive. It's like hundreds of euros for a couple of meters. And it takes like a week to arrive in the post, and I wanted to just crack on with this and finish this job off. And I looked in the cupboard and I actually had about 4 meters of the 95mm cable in stock, and I wasn't going to use it for anything else. So there's nothing wrong with over-speccing cable as far as I can see. So that's why this cable is slightly thicker than the other cable, as you may have noticed. So hopefully that won't cause any issues. Let me know your thought. But I don't see any issues using a slightly thicker cable. It'd be an issue if it was too thin, I think. Well, not think, I know it would be an issue. Right, so, oh, great. Plenty long enough. If anything, it's too long. But, right, let's get that connected first of all to the negative there on the bottom. There. So we now have everything connected up. I think that's okay. There's a little bit of cable management needed. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Fantastic. So the last thing we need to do now is just get the earthing finished off. I'm just going to get the covers put back on these. So we've got to run an earth cable from each charge controller and the Quattro inverter over to our main house breaker panel. I've done one already. I've connected one up, run one cable, haven't connected it up to the fuse box yet, but I've laid it in. And I have made 2 more cables up here. It's one short one and one long one. So the short one has the knot in it, right? And I've crimped on these little baby crimp terminals. These seem like baby terminals after doing these monster cables. But yeah, really useful having a hydraulic press to do crimping. So let's do the longer one, which is going to be this one here. So first thing I'm going to do is bring the cable down here through the hole. And the great thing is, because, let me just show you what I've actually done in this room. We have this access panel here, and this is removable. So it's, and there's a shelf here, so we can lay our cables. So we've got the solar cables there, we've got an earth, we've got a fibre optic cable, but it enables me to thread cables through, and it just makes life so much easier. So I got this idea from a friend of mine who built her own house. So she built a house, and what she did was, in her living room, she actually left a void, a bit like this, between her living room walls and the actual main walls of the outside of the house, and then put, you know, shelving in underneath and put access panels in. She actually did it with nice wooden panels. They're like you know, oak strips, which were very nice, but very easy to remove. And then when you ever want to run like speaker cable or network cable, you just pull a panel off and you can just pull the cable through. And actually recently she upgraded her internet cable to fibre optic. She wanted to lay fibre optic everywhere, and it was really easy. I gave her a hand, we just pulled it through. Took 10 minutes, very, very simple to do. And that's how I got the idea to do this. And I think if I was building a house, this is exactly what I do. When I convert the barn, there's a big room in the barn which we're going to be converting, and I'm building a home cinema in there and also a gym, and we're going to do the same kind of thing in the walls in there, have access panels, and you can just pull the cable through really, really easily. So yeah, that's where I got that idea from. So this now needs to come up, and where is this earth? Oh yes, it's in this corner here. So I'm just going to bring the cable up here, and let's get it connected up and earthed. The way this works is, let's just get that fished underneath. I think you can see that, but yeah, that's where it earths there, basically to the chassis. There's a star washer underneath, which when I tighten it up will hopefully break through the powder coating and create a good earth bond. Oh, that's as tight as I can get it. So now I just need to fish this through. Okay, this just goes down here. So we've got the network cables in, we've got the earthing in on both, and yeah, everything is all set. So now I'm just going to put the covers on, and we're getting really close to switching on. Just going to make sure those are in correctly. I think they are. Not going to screw that one in because we've still got some AC wiring to do here. Right, so that's all the wiring here done in the plant room. The only thing left to do in here is the AC side of things. I'm not going to do that right now because I need to turn the power off in the house, and I just need to organise when I'm going to do that, hopefully this week sometime. The next job is going to be just getting the final connections on the solar panels, which we're going to be doing this week. So we're getting really, really close. Really appreciate your comments. If you've got any comments or suggestions about the system, really enjoying your comments, by the way. I'd really appreciate those. I've got to get back to work now because, believe it or not, my real job is working on the internet. I have an internet marketing business where I teach people how to make money on the internet. That's what I do for a living. By the way, if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description. That will take you through to a website where you can kind of see what I actually do online and how I teach people how to make a full-time living working from home. The great thing about that is you can do it anywhere in the world, and that's how I'm able here to live here in rural France and still make a really good income online working on the internet. So if that's something that interests you, check out that link in the description. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll catch you next time.